Purim Sameach, everyone. Friday Sameach, Erev Shabbos Sameach, and just in general, Yom Sameach. It's like Mitzvah Gedol Elios B'Simcha. Let's all be happy. Woo! Okay, completely changing gears. We're reading Parshat Tisa this week, where we have the tragic and theologically confusing story of the Jewish people building the Egel HaZahav, building the golden calf, right after experiencing God in Har Sinai. And God says, I just revealed myself to them. They just saw me, and a couple days later, they're already worshiping Avodah Zarah, praying to an idol, to some deity, an entity that's not me. How is this possible? God says, I'm gonna completely destroy them. And Moshe, you're gonna be the continuation of the Jewish people. You and your descendants, that's gonna be the Zerah, the offspring of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. But the rest of the Jewish people, besides for you, I'm gonna completely wipe them off the face of the earth. And Moshe turns to HaKadosh Baruch Hu at that moment and has the following powerful phrase, which is obviously so powerful even if we have no idea what it means. Ve'ata im tisa chatatam, and now Hashem, if you choose to bear their sin, and then Moshe kind of ends that clause without explaining the what. And then Moshe says, V'imayin, but if you choose not to bear the sin, mecheni na misefrecha asher katafta, wipe me out of the book that you're writing. There are many different explanations about what this book means. Rashi suggested this referring to the Torah. Moshe says, I don't want my name to be found in the Torah if you're going to destroy the rest of the Jewish people. And that's why some say Moshe's name isn't found at all in Parshat Tisa, as sort of a small example of this coming true, of Moshe's name being wiped out of the Torah. Another possible interpretation of the book from which Moshe wants to be wiped out of is the Sefer HaChayim, the book of life that HaKadosh Baruch Hu writes at the beginning of every year. And Moshe says, Hashem, if you're going to destroy the rest of the people and you're not going to let them being written in the Sefer HaChayim, then I also don't want to be written in the Sefer HaChayim. I also don't want to live another year. If they're going to die, I want to die too. That's what the Ramban and others say. But there's another approach, an approach that's suggested by Rav Hirsch. And I want to explain that approach through the lens of the Megillah. Because in the Megillah, we have one of the most powerful climactic moments when Esther is kind of ambivalent about whether or not to go to Achashverosh and ask him to reverse Haman's decree, and Esther is ambivalent about trying to go and save the Jews. Moshe turns to Esther, and says the following line: Al tidami v'nafshech, don't you possibly fathom, don't you possibly think that you're able lihimalet beit hamelach mikol hayudim, to escape the fate of the rest of the Jewish people by hiding in the king's palace? Don't possibly think that you're able to other yourself, to think that the Jewish people there's one fate that's happening to them on the one hand, but me, there's a different fate that's happening to me on the different hand. And one destiny is able to befall them, but a different destiny is able to befall me. And even if they're going to be killed, I'm not necessarily going to be killed because I'm hiding out in the king's palace. Rav Aaron Lichtenstein, in his collection of essays called By His Lay, he has a whole essay just on this line in the speech that Mordechai gives to Esther, called If You Remain Silent at This Time. And I want to read you one paragraph, the way Rav Aaron explains what Mordechai is saying to Esther. And listen to these powerful words. Someone who really cares, someone whose consciousness is deeply rooted in the collective experience of Am Yisrael, someone whose destiny is bound up with that of the nation, disregards any consideration of danger or possible anger on the part of the king. In fact, such a person does not even have to suppress these thoughts. They do not even enter her mind. Such considerations arise, whether consciously or subconsciously, out of a perception that everyone else may perish, but I will manage to save my own skin. Essentially, Mordechai is telling Esther that you're not different. You're not other from the rest of the Jewish people. You're part and parcel of them. You're one. And if they have one fate that befalls them, the same fate is befalling you. And even though they may die and you could think that you're able to keep on existing because you see that you're breathing and your heart is still pumping, that's not really considered living. Because if they're not alive, then definitionally, you're also not alive. I guess the best way to understand this is the difference between when you have two different people and one person is in pain and the other person feels bad that their friend is in pain, but they're not able to fully understand the experience because at the end of the day, it's not you who's hurting, it's your friend who's hurting. Versus when you're one person, you're one body, and your left arm is hurting, your left arm got cut, and your right arm feels the pain of the left arm. Yes, your right arm isn't the one that's cut because your left arm is the thing that's cut. And even though your right arm is completely whole, it's not that your right arm feels the pain of the left arm because it feels bad for your left arm, because your right arm is able to try to possibly imagine the pain that the left arm is going through without being able to fully feel it itself. No, the right arm and the left arm are one unit, one body. And even if the cut is physically found on the left arm instead of on the right arm still feels the pain of the left arm because the right arm and the left arm are part of the same unit, part of the same entity. entity. And essentially what Mordechai is telling Esther, that Esther, don't think that you're a separate body from the rest of Am Yisrael. That they may be going through a hard time and you could feel bad for them, but it doesn't affect you. No, you guys are both arms on the same body. And if something is happening to them, even if physically it's not touching you, the same fate is definitionally also happening to you. And that's what got Esther to stand up and go to Achashverosh, because she said, even if my life technically may not be in harm, if something is happening to the Jewish people, then definitionally it is also happening to me, because we are all arms part of the same body. And that's essentially what Moshe is telling to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Rav Hirsch explains, what is this sefer from which Moshe threatens to be wiped out of? It's the sefer, the story of the world. It's God's plan for the universe. And Moshe is essentially telling Hashem, Ve'ata, I'm only able to be here and now, to exist, im Tisa chatatam. Hashem, if you bear their sin. And you say they're able to exist despite the fact that they sinned. Because if you choose to be super strict about their sin and say, now that they sinned, I'm going to wipe them out, v'im ayin, you're not willing to put up with their sin, mecheni nami sefercha asher katavta. Because if you're going to wipe them out of the story of the universe, then definitionally, I'm also not able to be part of the story of the universe, to be part of the story of the world, your plan for the world to exist. Because even if physically I may still be alive and I may still be breathing, it's not that I'm a separate entity from Klal Yisrael. It's not like I'm an other. I'm part and parcel of them. And if they're the left arm and they're hurting, then definitionally me as the right arm, I'm also hurting. We're one unit. And if they're in pain, I'm in pain. And if they're not existing, then definitionally I'm also not able to exist. That is Moshe's plea to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's something I want us all to keep in mind too. We're standing here on a day of Purim, a day where it's about Achdus. It's the reason why the Jewish people were able to succeed in the Purim story, and we were able to have victory, was because we all bonded together. We all davened together, like Knusat Yehudim, Esther says. Everyone gathered together and davened together. And we try to emulate that today, where through the mitzvot of Mishlach Manot and Matanot L'Avyonim, we try to connect ourselves to others, to recognize that we're not just a bunch of individuals that all exist together. We're not a collective group of individuals, but we're all one unit. We're all arms and legs and heads and ears and noses and all limbs of one body. And if a fate happens to another member of Am Yisrael, it's not that I feel bad for them because they're similar to me. No, if something is affecting them, definitionally, it's also affecting me. That's the lesson that Mordechai told Esther. That's the emotional pain that Moshe was experiencing when he pled to HaKadosh Baruch Hu to not destroy Am Yisrael, because by destroying them, you're destroying me, definitionally, and it's something that we have to feel for the rest of Klal Yisrael too. We're not just connected to Klal Yisrael through happy times, and we don't just get pride when something good happens to Jews, but if something bad is happening to another Jew, it affects me too, not just because they're related to me and then I feel bad, but because the pain that's happening to them definitionally means it's also happening to me, because we're all units and we're all aspects and all facets of the same body, of the same entity. That should be our relationship with Am Yisrael. Learn a lesson from Mordechai, who teaches us to Esther. Learn a lesson from Moshe Rabbeinu. Try to apply this to our lives. Okay, everybody have an amazing Shabbos, an amazing rest of your Purim, and hopefully we get closer to Am Yisrael through the rest of today and through Parshat Tisa. See y'all soon. Bye.